One of the activities most used in the math classroom is the worksheet. They're readily available to all teachers, and it's easy to just print one off and assign it to students. But is that the most effective or fun way to have students practice math concepts? In today's episode, we're going to be chatting with Brooklyn from Brooklyn's Brightest on how she takes worksheets and transforms them into games that students are excited to play. Let's get started. Welcome to Solving for the Undefined podcast. I'm your host, Johanna, founder of Miss Kuiper's Classroom, the place that equips teachers in creating a healthy math classroom where students can thrive, no matter their academic abilities. But it's not always about the numbers, and that's why I'm here, bringing you the formulas to solve your problems, math and otherwise, plus strategies on cultivating that necessary math mindset. And that's what you can count on. All right. Hello. Welcome to a brand new episode. Today we have Brooklyn joining us to talk to us about taking worksheets and making them into games. Welcome.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
So to start off, will you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am a 7th grade math teacher in Alabama, and I actually started out teaching elementary school. So I did 2 years of 3rd grade math, science, and social studies, and then I did 2 years of 1st grade, all subjects. And then I decided that I wanted something totally different, and I got certified to be able to teach middle school math. So this is my 4th year doing 7th grade math. So that's kind of a little bit of my educational background. I just got married in May, and so my husband and I have been doing a lot of traveling and just enjoying life together. So that's me.
That's awesome. So what made you, I know you said you wanted to change, but what was the catalyst from going to elementary to middle school math of all things?
I really love teaching 3rd grade math, and so I absolutely loved it and didn't actually want to move, but I had to move down to 1st grade, and I did not enjoy that age group. I knew that it wasn't for me. I really wanted my students to be a little bit more independent. I know middle schoolers can still be needy in their own ways, but it's just completely different. And so after 1 year, I went ahead and started putting some feelers out for actually a 6th grade position. And they said, what we really, really need is a 7th grade math teacher. I guess it's a little bit harder for those secondary positions. So I thought about it. And then when I did 1st grade for the second time, after like a month, I knew I was like, I can't do this anymore because they do grow so much, but that first semester is just really, really hard if that's not where your heart is. So I wanted to jump way up. I wanted older kids. I wanted more independence. And math has just always been one of my favorite subjects because it can be so hard. And I like to make it the magic of seeing the kids actually understand it. And you can just make math so fun. And so that's just kind of what my heart kind of jumped to. I was like, if I go to middle school, because they asked me like, what subject could you do? I was like, let me do math. Like I can bring magic to math. So that's just, I feel like my heart just kind of led me there.
That's really cool, the idea of you wanted to bring magic to math, because I agree. So many kids really have like predefined notions of what math is and what math should be. And so having teachers who want to bring the magic and show them how cool math is and make it something that they can do and understand, I think is really awesome and important. So taking that idea of putting magic into the math classroom, you have this idea of taking worksheets and putting them into games. What inspired that?
I wanted something new for my kids, but we're on 50 to 55-minute periods. So that was really hard for me, especially coming from elementary where in 1st grade I had them all day. In 3rd grade, we did have 2 classes, but I still had them for 2.5 hours. And so it was a very big adjustment because it goes so fast, and it still feels fast to me. After 4 years, I still feel like, oh my goodness. And so I thought, okay, I need something really fun, really exciting, but also it can't take that much time because we just don't have it. And there's a couple times a year that I will do like stations and things like that, but it definitely takes multiple days. So there's a time and a place for that. And then there's a time and a place for like, I need something that's going to be easy for me to put together, but meaningful for them and also fun and exciting. So I felt like the time constraint is really what drove me to this because it's so quick and easy.
So, walk us through that process of how do you take a worksheet and make it into a game?
So I have a couple that I do. You can obviously use any worksheets that you already have. You want them to be something that maybe the kids would need at least 1 minute to solve. So when you're looking at different worksheets, there can definitely be easy questions for sure, word problems, just kind of whatever, as long as say you can give them 1 minute. There's a couple things you can do. Number one, you can take a worksheet and you can just cut up the problems. You could take a couple of worksheets even and just mix up the problems, whatever. And you could show them under your document camera. I've also even done like screenshots, like on my computer, screenshot like certain questions of a worksheet that I like, and put them on a Google slide. So you can just put the images and you can just make a little slideshow and you can show them that way. And so whenever I do that method, you could even do study guides too. I think that was the first thing that I actually did when I did this was I took like a massive 3-page study guide that they all would have freaked out over. And this is what I did. I cut up the problems. And so when I display them, I will let the kids work in either, partners, trios, small groups, and I'll give them a time frame for the problem. So that's why I say maybe allow a good problem that maybe like, okay, you could give them a good minute to solve. And if it's a harder problem, I'll let them know, okay, I'm going to give you like 2 minutes for this one. This one's a harder word problem. And so basically, the kids will work through the problem. And my rule is that everybody has to have the same answer. So it holds everybody accountable because there's always going to be that group or that person that just wants to, wait till the end and copy whatever everyone has down. So everyone has to have the same answer, but if I see that happening, they're not going to get the points. I'll get to the points in a second. So that usually nips that out because the group is like, you've got to participate or we're not going to get the points. So everybody has to have collectively talk, come up with the same answer. And we usually will use whiteboards just because they're easier to hold up. And yeah, so at the end of the time, everybody holds their boards up, and if they have the right answer, they're going to get whatever points we spin. So I like to use like random like spinners. There's like free spinners on Google. If you just type in like spinner wheel or whatever, like there's several that will pop up so you can enter whatever values you want. So being in 7th grade, integers are really big. So I like to do positive and negative numbers. And I'll even ask the kids sometimes, like, what points do we want? Because they'll want to do like minus 200 or plus 50, and then they'll want to do like plus 2. They like to kind of do a mixture. If I still taught 3rd grade, I wish I could have gone back in time and done this because they would have loved it. I would have done multiplication tables. That way, whatever we landed on, they would have to come up with the product, or you could even do division facts. And yeah, and if you're, in 4th or 5th grade, you could probably still do that. You could even do like larger numbers, like 3-digit numbers. But anyways, so if they got that question right, I would hit this spinner, and then whatever it landed on, those are the points they get. So with us doing positives and negatives, I like to do at the end whoever has the most points, like absolute value, like positive or negative, because sometimes you'll have a group that they only get it right when you land on a negative, like minus 500 or minus 50. And so that kind of keeps them going instead of giving up and being like, oh, we're so far down, like we're not going to win. Sometimes there's like 2 groups going against each other on who can have the biggest like negative number. And it's also a great thing because they have to keep up with their points as they go along. So I tell them, as a group, you guys have to keep up with your points. And then if you guys are not agreeing on what your points are, like obviously raise your hand, I'll come help you. But they've got to keep up with it along the way. So if it's plus 50 and then minus 75, like they're having to do that math along the way, which is kind of its own little lesson. So again, if you're doing times tables, they're having to multiply and add them up. So that one's really, really fun. We just call that one spin to win. And so it's nice because you can take any worksheet that you already have just laying around. You can use those problems, and instead of just passing it out to them and having them do it, it's like it's turned into a fun game, but they're completely engaged the whole time. Like even the kids that usually don't want to do stuff, they will do this because it's fun. And we'll even throw in on the spinner, like do 10 jumping jacks or go find something in your backpack and go throw it away. Like we'll do silly stuff just to kind of make it fun. But so that's one that's really popular. And then another one that we do is the hundreds chart. So if you want to use a hundreds chart, basically each kid would get a copy of a hundreds chart, and you would give them the worksheet like normal. So you don't have to cut it up. You would just your average worksheet. But however many questions they get correct are how many numbers they get to mark off a hundreds chart. So what I personally like to do is put the answers on a Google form. So have the kids do the worksheet, put their answers in the Google form, and then, you got 17 questions right out of 20, go mark off 17 numbers, kind of like self-checking for them.
Mhm.
You could go over the answers orally. I've done that before too. Like, hey, we're going to go over this, how many points you got right, or how many questions you got right. That's how many numbers you get to mark off. And it's like a probability lesson too, because the kids kind of start coming up with like their own method. They're like, well, I'm going to do all the tens, or I'm going to do all the fives, or they'll just do the first 17, like whatever. And I will do, again, you can do a random number generator on Google, where Google will pick a number between 1 and 100, or they like it if I ask Siri. So if I ask my phone, hey Siri, pick a number. They really like that one because that one's fun. Because sometimes she'll pick like the same number 2 or 3 times, and if the kids had that number marked off their chart, they're like very excited. And so that one's really fun because, again, you're using a worksheet that you already have. All you have to have for that are just a hundreds chart printed off. And I like shrink them pretty small because I have like 145 kids. So I'll just have like a big stack of kind of miniature like hundreds charts. And when I want to do that, I'm like, all right, everybody glue this in. And, we'll do things like give out stickers, or I've got like erasers. Like if you want to give something out, when they get a number, or when they have the most points on the spin to win, you can. Or sometimes we just do bragging rights. I'm like, you get bragging rights all day and you get to brag that you got the most points in spin to win. But yeah, those are my two big, like, easy, kid approved. They love doing either one of those games with a worksheet.
I really like both of those, and especially the one with the hundreds chart, because
Mhm.
I've always done it as like 100 chart per class period, and so then they're kind of like fighting for the numbers, and but when they each have their own individual one, it allows for them not to feel rushed because they get to choose whatever numbers they get, any numbers they want, and it's not like, oh no, everyone else has taken all the numbers, like there's no more left. And so it eliminates that like rushing piece of trying to get it done, but actually working through the problems to get them correct in
Yep.
order to then mark off as many as they can on theirs.
And it's like a reward too, because like you'll have kids who, I mean, we know you give a kid a 20 question worksheet and you've got some that are going to get through 5 unless there's a lot of prodding going on. And it's kind of like they learn, like, okay, if I only answer 5 and get all 5 right, I'm only going to mark off 5 numbers and my chances are going to be more slim. So it kind of motivates them, like, let me try to get through as many as I actually can. And I'll tell them, it's okay if you don't get through all 20 of these questions, whatever we're doing, but it's the quality. So the more you get right, the better. So don't rush. Like you said, don't rush to try to get through all 20 and get half of them wrong, but take your time and try to get as many right. And also giving them that autonomy, like you can skip around on the worksheet, try all the ones that you really think you know first, and kind of get that boost of confidence. That way you feel good. And then you can try some of the other ones that you're not so sure about. So all in all, it's good. And I've also done it with a sub when I leave, because, we typically at my school, like we can't use computers when we have a sub or anything like that. So it has to be something on paper, which ends up usually being a worksheet. And I'll tell them, like, this work with a sub, tomorrow we're going to do the hundreds chart. So you better get all these questions done and don't sit around and waste your time. As we know, a lot of kids want to do with a sub. They don't want to work as hard because we're not there. And so that will keep, you're not going to get 100% on track when you're gone, but it kind of helps motivate some kids who are maybe on the fence, like, okay, yeah, I'm actually going to do this because I want to do that tomorrow and have questions to mark off. So it can be used as an incentive as well.
That's awesome. I might do that when I have a sub next, because
Yeah.
that is a smart idea because, like you said, it keeps them
Mm-hmm.
more accountable because they want to be able to do the hundreds chart the next day with you. And so they have to be able to work through that worksheet diligently and with integrity to get the 100 chart reward the next day.
Yep.
I'm interrupting today's episode to ask you a vital question. Do you have the tools in your classroom for student success? Well, wonder no more because I have a way for you to check your work. My new guide, 7 Math Teacher Must-Haves for Student Success, has the top 7 items you need in your classroom. From classroom staples to manipulatives that are often missed, this checklist will ensure that your students have a successful school year. Additionally, each item shows the best budget and splurge options. Download the 7 Math Teacher Must-Haves for Student Success after listening to today's episode by going to misskuiper.com/guide. So I know you talked about it earlier of like, you want to make sure the questions for the spinner game are at least 1 minute kind of length. What other qualities do you look for in a worksheet to turn it into a game?
I like to have some with like a variety of question types. So maybe like a mixture, like whatever my unit is. But what you can do, and what I do very often is, if you do this, say at the end of a unit, which is kind of what I like to do, where I can have a good mixture of problem types, is go look at, okay, what did you do the first week? Okay, pull a worksheet from that. What did you do the second week of this unit? Pull a worksheet from that. And then you can mix up the problems. So it may not even so much be as what qualities in one worksheet, but pick 2 or 3 that you just like in general, and you can use those problems. But I do usually like to include some word problems if possible, some harder questions, like maybe, that higher DOK level, just because they are going to be working in groups. But that's usually what I look for. And I usually will try to have a good 15 questions or so for my class period. So if you are on a block schedule and have more time, I would at least have 20 questions to go through, because you'd rather have too many than not enough. But for me, in a 55-minute period, by the time we come in, do bell work, and then include some time at the end for packing up, a good 15 questions is good enough, because you have to give them the time to do it, the time to spin, and add up their points and things like that. For the hundreds chart, that's just kind of your average Joe. Like, you would just give them the whole worksheet. That one could be any kind of worksheet, because it's really like normally giving them a worksheet, you're just throwing in that extra step after. So that one is a little bit more lenient, I guess, on problem types.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I like that a lot. Because I know for me, one of my things is like trying to make sure that I am using the resources I have.
Mm-hmm.
And my curriculum comes with a bunch of different worksheets. And so that those 2 games give me the option of maybe like during our unit for the hundreds chart, just giving
Mm-hmm.
them one of those worksheets.
Yeah.
But at the end, using the spinner game, taking a bunch of the problems from those worksheets, and some
Yep.
of the kids may have seen them before, which allows them to feel more confident in the end. I can use that as well.
And you can even write those on the board. Like, I know a lot of us have those curriculums with the workbooks and things like that. And the workbooks we know are not engaging, but they might have good problems in them. You could even write those on the board. Go through a worksheet and a workbook page and circle the ones that you really like. And you could just throw those up on the board, and that would be a great way to use, like you said, what you already have. You don't have to go buy something on TPT or go download something. Like, every teacher already has so many worksheets, so
Mm-hmm.
use what you already have. And it also doesn't take like any planning time besides copying some hundreds charts. But even the spinner, you can pull that spinner up in class and do it, have them, like I said, help create what the values are going to be. And I know for me, on my browser, it saves whatever I put in, so every time I go to it, it's already there. So once you do it, I mean, it's already there. So it's pretty easy.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, saves time. I love it. So, how can a teacher get started doing games from worksheets in their classrooms?
So first, obviously, pull some worksheets. So maybe like whatever unit you're in, or maybe if you're about to start a unit, maybe just kind of pull some out, have them to the side and be like, okay, I want to use this one. Maybe try the spin game, or, let me cut these questions up. Or if you want to try the hundreds chart, like just find a good, 15 to 20 question worksheet, just because if it's less than that, you want the kids to be able to mark off a decent amount of numbers since it's out of 100. And just kind of have that kind of in the back of your mind. And then I found my 100 chart on TPT, like as a freebie. I just typed that in and selected free, and there's free ones. Print those off, have yourself a good stack. You can use the hundreds chart 1 to 2 times. I usually don't let them reuse it more than twice, because then they start getting so many numbers marked off that it kind of defeats the purpose of the chance of them picking a number. But you could just kind of have those set off to the side. You can pull up the spinners on Google and go ahead and be maybe thinking of some creative things that you might want to pop in there, like the jumping jacks or push-ups, or finding something in your backpack to throw away, anything like that. Maybe be thinking, depending on your grade level, if you want to do times tables or if you want to do positives and negatives. I mean, the possibilities there are kind of endless. I'm even thinking I should probably do times tables with my seventh graders. That wouldn't be a bad idea, would it?
No, not at all.
Do positive and negative, multiplication facts in there too. So yeah, really those few things right there, and then you're gonna be good to go. That's really all you need. So finding some good worksheets that you like would definitely be your first step.
And then just to reiterate, how often do you do this type of activity?
I like to do it like once per unit. Like the spin to win, I really like to do towards the end. So maybe as a review of the unit, and like kind of like as our study guide. Sometimes I take our study guide and do it, like I said. The hundreds chart, I might do like twice in a unit, 2, maybe 3 times. I don't want to do it too often to like make it not exciting. But when I go, a couple weeks without doing it and we do it again, they are very excited, or they'll ask like, when are we going to do that again? So I would say the hundreds chart you could definitely do 2 to 3 times in a unit, and the other maybe make it like it's a big deal. Like okay, it's time for us to do it for this unit. That way it kind of builds up like a lot of anticipation and makes it like really have a lot of energy.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you would like to share in regards of making worksheets into games?
If it doesn't go well the first time, or if it's a little bit hectic, don't give up. Anytime you try something new, it's going to be something that you kind of have to wrap your head around with your kids. The hundreds chart definitely is pretty chill until you go to draw the numbers, and then like they are going to get loud, like when their number gets heard, they're going to scream. But other than that, it's pretty relaxed. The other one, definitely anytime you're doing group work, you might have to play around with, okay, do I let partners do this, do I let trios do this, do I let small groups do this? Anytime you do group work, it's going to be like any other thing. So don't give up. If you have kids who are opting out, just let them go work in isolation and let the other kids still work together to get their points, as any good teacher would do. But definitely give it more than one shot. It's really easy, and it's really fun, and it's like such low prep for your lesson plans, because you're doing high quality questions that you already like, but you're just putting a little spin on it to make it fun. So definitely give it a couple tries, and don't give up on it if it doesn't go as well as you hoped for the first time.
I really liked that you shared that, because I know for me, sometimes I get discouraged if the
Mm-hmm.
first time I try something new that I know is really fun or really exciting and it could be really good for kids. It can be discouraging when the kids don't react or enjoy it the way that you think they will.
Mm-hmm.
So trying it more than once and not giving up is important.
Absolutely.
All right, so I ask this in every interview. So, what is your favorite math related joke or pun?
Math teachers have problems. That's my favorite. I have it on a t-shirt, and it's written in my classroom. I've loved that one like ever since my first year of teaching.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
like that. And that you have a shirt with it. That's cool.
Yes. I usually wear it on state testing day when we do math. That's what I
Hmm.
wear. That way, when I'm walking around monitoring the kids, I'm like, you get nervous or you start feeling, just look at my shirt and laugh. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right. So, as we wrap this episode up today, where can people find you to learn more about who you are and what you have to offer?
I am on Instagram at Brooklyn's Brightest, and I also have a blog, brooklynsbrightest.blog, and I've got some things on there about the topics that we talked about today, and that's a good place where I like to share any fun ideas like this in the classroom. So Instagram and blog, very easy way to follow along and contact me if you have any questions or if you implement this in your classroom. Let me know how it goes.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm excited to implement this coming week in my classroom. I think it's going to be awesome. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us, and thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. To find all the links and resources to things talked about in this episode, head on over to MissKuipersClassroom.com and click on podcast.